All right, let's move to the latest developments around the Thabo Bester escape. The family of Katlego Bereng, the man whose body was burnt in Thabo Bester's prison cell in May last year, has laid criminal charges against the Departments of Health and Correctional Services and also against private security company G4S. ActionSA stepping in as well to help the family as they take legal action. Bereng's family has rejected a police report that says he collapsed in town and was taken to hospital. eNCA Silindelo Masikane has the details, joining me now in studio. So, Sli, hello. What is the latest? We know that this family, I think they'd lost touch with him, didn't know where he was. What are the unanswered questions for them at this point?
So, of course, news broke over this weekend. I think it was Saturday, where we had police confirmation around DNA test results that were done on the biological mother of Katlego Bereng. And from what we understand, the DNA results then confirmed that it is the body of someone who essentially lived in Bloemfontein, spent his entire life there, was raised by his grandmother. And the family says, from their understanding, they last saw him in March 2022. And you would remember that the fire at the Mangaung prison happened in May of 2022. They're saying from the moment they realized that they've lost touch with him, they don't know where he is, they began to, make a case of a missing persons at the police station, and then they crisscrossed a number of state mortuaries looking potentially for his body and never found it. So the reasons, of course, for them to lay these criminal charges is that now we know that the body that was planted in Bester's cell, which was, we know Dr. Nandipa had picked up from a state mortuary, belongs to their son, and they believe that the state, as well as G4S, has a case to answer to and has contravened the Health Act number 61, National Health Act number 61 of 2003, in the manner in which their son's body was handled. So firstly, they find issue with the fact that they were never notified when he landed in the hospital and was taken to a mortuary, and the fact that his body was then taken from a mortuary and ended up in the G4S private prison. They believe that the state does have a case to answer to. So today what we saw was Katlego's families then going to the police station to lay these criminal charges against the entities that you've just mentioned as well. So we had an opportunity to speak to his father. His mother is in a total state, just completely emotional, and has actually had to get some medical care due to the sheer trauma of this entire process. Let's take a listen to the father outside the police station.
As a family, we just want, all the puzzles to come together. We just want the answers. We just want to find out where was my son first discovered up until he was taken to the G4 cells, up until he was then taken into the correctional services. We just want those details so that we can be satisfied and so that we can have closure and so that we can know how did our son die. It's like I'm dying slowly inside because no parent, is expecting to bury his child, and let alone, this man, in this manner. This is, I cannot describe the situation that we find ourselves in. This is terrible, quite honest. I don't wish, even if I had an enemy, I don't even wish my enemy can experience what we are experiencing now. Because imagine we are grieving, but at the end of the day, we want answers. We are going up and down. We have to face the media. We don't have time to sit down and grieve as the family. Why? Just because on how our son died.
And I suppose the thing that doesn't make any sense is that the autopsy report says that it looks like he died from blunt force trauma.
Yes.
And now, whether that was an accident or murder, we're yet to understand. What is the family? What were they told had happened to create this injury? And what do they believe might have happened?
So they've been told by the police that the belief is that Katlego was in town. He seemingly passed out, hit his head, then started bleeding excessively. family. He was then rushed to hospital by an ambulance where he subsequently died. But they're saying they don't believe this. They believe that this is yet another attempt to cover up what really happened to their son Katlego. And I think given the twists and turns in this particular case, it will be interesting to see if there is a medical report, perhaps from the hospital, from the ambulance, that can give us more detail around that blunt force trauma that was picked up by the post-mortem report. We know that the person that was planted in Bester's cell, Katlego, had blunt force trauma to the head and that he had died before the fire had started. So they just don't believe the story about him collapsing in town, because they say their son is quite well known in Bloemfontein. Bloemfontein is not a huge town. From speaking to his family, he was a huge Celtic fan, which is one of the local football club in Bloemfontein, and the family believes somebody would have recognized him, you know, and alerted the family to say, look, he fell in town, he's in hospital, something. But they're saying the circumstances around how his body now ended up in Bester's cell makes them believe that there is another perhaps scenario in terms of how he may have passed away. So during the process of laying charges, the family was accompanied by ActionSA. This is what they had to say.
We want transparency, and we want everyone to be held accountable, because how did the body ended up in jail, in a prison? And something that is very disturbing, the police claimed that Katlego was taken by the ambulance from pickup on the street, went to the hospital, that is National Hospital. So definitely there should be the medical report from the ambulance. We want to know what was the state of Katlego's body when he was picked up by the ambulance, because definitely he was unconscious. The police suspected that he was under the influence of drugs, but he was taken to the hospital. And we believe that in the hospital situation, he was definitely welcomed by the trauma or the casualty doctor who examined Katlego. So we want to know from the medical report what was the state of Katlego, because we do know post-mortem explains something different, that the cause of his death is because he had an injury. He had a fractured skull, or you can even say a blunt wound on the head. So those are the positive results that you know about the post-mortem. But we want to get to the root of this thing. Why was he killed? Who killed him?
Uncovering those answers is one leg of the story. Of course, we know that 7 people, including Thabo Bester, now, of course, are going to face charges in terms of that escape. Just talk to me about when everyone's back in court.
All right. So the main man himself, Thabo Bester, will be back in court on the 16th of May, joined by the co-accused. The co-accused, one of which is Dr. Nandipa's father, is out on 10,000 rand bail. That's when we also expect him back in court. But the other 5, Dr. Nandipa included, will be back in court next week. They are expected to be applying for bail. So the 3rd and 4th of May is when we're expecting those who are still in custody, which includes 2 G4S employees, a contractor, and Dr. Nandipa, to then attempt to try and be released on bail. So those proceedings, we understand, will begin next week.
Have we seen the end of the arrest, or is there a possibility of more, do you think?
There should be more, because from the sources that we've been liaising with, there's definitely more than just 7 people who had to be involved in this elaborate escape, and in particular high-ranking officials. So that's where we're trying to understand when are those arrests going to take place, because a lot of those we speak to from the prison itself say that there's no way, absolutely no way, a security guard and a supervisor could have, done this without the knowledge of people in high positions.
Some way to go still on that issue. Thank you so much for that update. Of course, that's eNCA senior reporter Silindelo Masikane.